welcome back to JJ's Baker House, and welcome back to week 2 of our beginner bakers course. So this week we're going to be looking at, I put alternative buttercreams. So the buttercream we're going to do this week is Swiss meringue buttercream. I don't know if you've had issues with this in the past, but I've made a really simple way of doing this, so don't panic. It's going to be fine, and we're going to make Swiss meringue buttercream. We're also going to take the sponge and make cake out of it as well. So you're going to have a lovely cake by the end of this, and also know how to make Swiss meringue buttercream. If you've never tried it, it's so silky smooth, it really is lovely. It's just a little bit longer to make it. We're also going to be looking at ganache and different forms that different ways you can use ganache. So we'll go through that as well. So I hope you enjoyed last week's course. I've seen some pictures, brilliant. If you haven't sent me pictures, keep them coming. I really like looking at what you've done and what you've achieved. So well done, and let's begin. So we are going to start with the sponge cakes first. Now, just to clear something up, I did have a comment on my channel of somebody that said that I told you to put your metal bowl for your mixer into the microwave. I did not say that. Do not put a metal bowl into the microwave ever. This is going in the oven where you're preheating it, ready for the cakes. So, as usual, my bowl is very cold, in it goes again. I'm going to pop this into my oven for around about 1 minute, just so that the butter doesn't stick to the side, same as what we did last time. And the oven is preheated to those same temperatures as what we did for the cupcakes, so 160 degrees for a fan assisted, 170 for a regular oven. So in this goes. And then we'll talk you through what I'm doing here. So I've got my pans. Now, my pans are 20 centimetre pans, which is just under 8 inches. So if you're working in inches and you've got 8-inch pans, it's really not going to make any difference. There is so little in it. So just carry on with the way that we are making this. So took these, put it on parchment paper here, and then drew around the bottom part here. Don't go around the top, don't take this bit because this is naturally wider. So followed that round, drew around that, and then cut it out. Perfect. And it goes in there brilliantly. Same with that one, goes in there brilliantly. So there's our pans, we're going to use 2 of those. And then with our ingredients for this, same as, you'll see that the method for this is exactly the same as what we did with my cupcakes. So I've got 250 grams of everything this time, 250 of plain flour. Again, I've used plain flour for this, and adding my own baking powder for those of you that don't have self-raising flour. If you have self-raising flour, again, ignore the baking powder and just use 250 of self-raising flour. I've got I use stork, but either butter or an alternative to the stork margarine for the cakes. So again, lovely texture on that one. I can put my finger in it and it makes indentations, and that's perfect. 250 on my caster sugar. Now, I'm aware that caster sugar isn't a thing if you're in America, and I'm sorry for saying that last week. Obviously it is where we are, but so long as this butter is whipped enough and the right consistency when it goes in, it will melt that granulated sugar. So carry on with the granulated sugar. And then I've got 4 large eggs, and that came in at around about 225, so I'm just slightly under. That's fine. So that's our ingredients. 3 tablespoons of milk, and I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Don't worry. Vanilla. Right. So I'm going to get this out of the oven. 1 sec. There we go. And I could have left it in there a little bit long while we were talking. It's a little bit too warm. If I put my butter in there, it's just going to slop. I'm going to go back to my not my cream and paddle. No, I'm very sad I don't have that. I'm going back to using the same paddle as you so that we have the same issues. I've also got my spatulas, which are just so good with baking. Because they're all bendy, you can get right on the sides of this, and it's really, really useful. So make sure you get one of these. Right, I'm just going to make sure I've got everything that I need and be straight back to you. Right, one thing, before we put any ingredients in, one thing is really important for me to talk you through is how to make your pans non-stick, right? So we have got these for the base, brilliant. We need to make sure that we've got the outsides done. So I actually have a spray, but for the purposes that you don't, let's move all this so you can see properly what I'm doing. In fact, put it behind for a second. Right, so for the purposes of what I'm doing, I'm going to do it the old way. So I've got some of my butter, not what's in the recipe, just an extra bit. And this is, you're going to get sticky. Take your butter and just rub it around the outsides of your pan. Okay? Just like this. So there we go. And we'll do the other one. It's probably a bit thick, that one. If you don't want to get your hands, then just use the packet, the butter, but if you're using out the block, out of the tub, then that's going to be quite difficult. Right, that is perfect. This one's too much, so I'm just going to take some of the, on the bottom it doesn't make any difference because it's just sticking the, it's only sticking the paper. Right, there we go. Right, so now we've got that like that. Let me get a cloth for my hands. Right, now if you were to put this now into the oven, when you're cooking and you put butter in, butter burns really, really easily when it gets hot, okay? So what that's going to do then is the butter is going to start cooking the side of your cake and it's going to go all crispy and hard and not that nice. So what we need to do then is get flour to protect it. So flour over the top of this. Now I'm not over the sink here, so I'm trying to be clever by getting a bowl. Right, and then you just want to move it around the whole thing, like this, and all the way around the sides. And then that way, it's non-stick. You've got the butter, but it's not doing you any damage to your cake. So I've missed a little bit there, take a bit more. Right, that's protecting your cake from the heat of that butter. Right, there we go. Give it a tap. Excellent. And that is how your cake tin should be, okay? If you're not using a liner across the bottom, do that. If you have got a liner on the bottom, it's not really needed with the bottom section because you're protected, but those sides definitely do need greasing and covering. So that's how we do that. I'm going to finish off my one and then we're going to start with the recipe. Okay, let's get started. So this cooled down so I can hold it but still feel that there's temperature. That's the way we always do it. Okay, butter in. Lovely. And the sugar in. And then, as we did before, a good couple of minutes on this, and we are going to cream all this together really, really well. If you need to stop, if it's stuck to the side, scrape it, but I'm going to let this go for around about 2 minutes and then come straight back to you. Right, I'm going to scrape it down. We're nearly there. There we go. Because you're on a fast speed, the faster your machine goes, the less it needs scraping down anyway, because it works so quickly to move it around. But, same as before, just scrape it all down, and then we're going to give this another minute, and we will be done. So again, get that speed right up, let it do its thing, and then we'll be back. Lovely. Right, look at that. And then you can just see with this that your cake is going to be airy when you look at how fluffy and nice this looks. So, so good. Look. Love it. Right. Nothing's stuck anywhere because it's so whipped up. Now remember what we said last time? That's your air. So now everything else that goes in really, really slow speed, really quickly. Okay. You know what you're doing now. You know exactly what I'm going to say anyway. Right, let's get rid of this for a second and start putting everything in. So, in with the eggs. In with the flour. Now, I'm plain, so I'm going to add my baking powder to that. So I'm going to put a teaspoon and a half of baking powder in this one. Teaspoon. And a half a teaspoon. Not to get confused with tablespoon, or it would be very different. There we are. Put those back in there. And the milk. And the same, a teaspoon and, well, 2 teaspoons, I should say, I'm putting in this one, of vanilla. And don't forget, it must be vanilla extract. There we are, and in. Right, let's whip this back up again. And on it goes. Tea towel, very important, otherwise you're going to look like a ghost. And there we go, right, slowest speed. Until you think you're brave enough to lift it up. Have a little peek, lovely. Right, and stop. So that wasn't even 30 seconds, and same as before, I can still see that the egg isn't quite incorporated, but I'm going to do this. So if you're using that hand mixer, you do all the process exactly the same, but you don't use the hand mixer for this. You just fold in that flour. Right. So it is a bit gloopy because of the egg, but I'm just scraping around, pushing through. Scraping and pushing until it's all incorporated and no longer slimy. And then we're going to pop it into those cases. It's so quick and simple. Now if you ever wanted to colour your cakes, the sponges, when I added the milk, that's where I add my colouring. So a lot of the time, because the sponges don't like being played with too much, if you add the colouring into this batter and then, lost my train of thought. If you add the colouring straight into this batter, you're going to need to whip it and whip it and whip it. And what you're doing then is knocking all that lovely air out. So you want to get that colouring in, but you want it to disperse really well. So put any colouring into the milk and then add it in, and that milk will just help that to incorporate through so much easier, and you won't have half of that whipping up. So good tip for you. Milk and in. Right, we're ready to put these in. Show you what mine looks like. There we go. All lovely, and if you move it about a little bit without pushing too much to get the air out, no egg, all in. Right, you can weigh this if you want to, if you're not overly sure. You want to try and get these the same. So, I'm doing it by eye. Or get a spoon, a big spoon, and do one in one in the next, one in the next, one in the next. But like I said, you can just pop them on the scales and weigh them out. Right. Take a different one of these, and you take from the middle and pull out. The reason sometimes people get this really thin around the outside part is because they start here and they keep pushing down as they go round, and you're making the outer layer thinner. So from the middle, because the middle will naturally just go up anyway. So there we are. Okay. Brilliant, ideal. Your mixture should never ever go up more than 2/3 of your pan, otherwise you're going to have spillage everywhere. Right, let me just push that a little bit more to the sides. Just do that. And that will sort itself out. Same with this one, pushing out to the sides. Right, sometimes you see people say bang it. Don't bang it because you're going to knock the air out. Right, so pushed it all into the sides there. Excellent. Right, these are going to go in the oven for between 22 and 25 minutes. So I am going to put mine in and have a look at 22 minutes and be straight back to you. So go and have a nice rest, you've earned it, and wait until those cakes smell lovely. See you in a minute. Just forgot to say, my cakes have gone in side by side on the centre of the oven, on the middle shelf, centre of the oven, which is where they should be. Those tins aren't so big that they can't go side by side. It might make the cooking time a little bit longer because it's not dead central, they're side by side in the oven. But we'll take into account of that and we'll sort that out. Now with a fan assisted oven, you've got air circulating all the way around, okay? So with a fan assisted, with baking, it just means that you can put things on 2 layers. The air is just dealing a lot better with moving it all around. Regular oven, it's statically going in one place. So that's where you can get that slight issue. We should be okay side by side. We will keep an eye on that time. Now mine is a fan assisted, so it is whirling that bit better. If you don't have one, don't worry, but you must never put them on separate shelves without a fan assisted oven, because the heat's coming down, it's not getting to that underneath layer. So what you would have to do is, if you need to make the 2 and they wouldn't fit side by side, or you're making more, you divide the recipe in half, you only make half the ingredients, and then you do the sponges one at a time, because you can't leave it on the side. Once you've got everything in there, the rising agent will start to work, and then it's not going to happen in the oven. So don't make batter and leave it on the side for ages, because we don't want to do that. Just divide it in half. So make sure that if you have an issue with putting your cake side by side, half this off and do it half and then half. See you in a minute. Okay, we're done. So I have 1 and 2. There we go. Now see here, let me just pop this up. Okay, see the way it's come right away from the sides here, and that's because of that butter and the flour over the top. It's just peeled away, which is perfect. We're really bouncy on the top there, really, really good. If you put your knife in, let's do it again, show you. Oh, I've got a skewer. Even better. Right, in the skewer goes. We're fine. Couple of crumbs. Remember, crumbs mean cooked, so that's what I'm after. But you'll get used to that feeling, that spongy topped feeling. So now we're just going to let those cool. Now, if a lot of people say they don't like the dome across the top, so bear with me just 1 sec, and I'm going to show you a way to possibly counteract that. Right, I've got some parchment paper. Now you need to do this when it's hot, so you have to be so careful. Now if it looks as if yours is stuck at all, don't do this, because the cake is really prone to breaking while it's this hot. So I'm going to tip it into my hands and just put it there. Now that fell out so easily. The greaseproof paper comes off with it. Again, I mean, I've left it out for a couple of minutes here. I don't want to scald my hand. Make sure you don't scald your hand. And there we are. And then what that can do is, because it's so hot, it's more pliable. So that then might push that top bit down that little bit more. So we are just going to leave those completely alone and concentrate on our Swiss meringue. So don't panic, we are going to be doing this next and it's going to be absolutely fine. So let's get going. I'll get everything ready and come back to you in a second. Right, Swiss meringue. My butter has been on the side for about an hour, cut up like this into small pieces, and that way then I've avoided having to put it into the microwave because it's at a consistency when I touch it I can push my fingers into it and that's the way I want it, so that's fine. This has been back in the oven again, so touchable, which is absolutely fine. So I've got with this, we've got 400 grams of unsalted butter, and I always use unsalted. Again, there is this whole story of do you use salted, do you use unsalted? So I always use unsalted butter. It's really down to your personal preference. Some people say that using some salted cuts through the sweetness if you don't like your buttercream being too sweet. I know people that use just solely salted butter. I've tasted that and I find that too salty, but I don't like salt, so that's probably the reason. I know people that do half salted and half unsalted. There is no right answer for this. It really is down to personal preference, so you'll see me always use unsalted. Right, it's time to get this whipped up. We are going to do this Swiss meringue in my way. Normal Swiss meringue, you would make your meringues now, you would put them on the bowl, and this cubed butter here, you would chuck in and add bit by bit, and I don't understand this method at all. This is why I came up with mine. It seems that you've got this really light aerated meringue, and you're putting this butter in, and it's working so hard to break down the butter and difference in consistencies, and then it ends up soupy, and this is what scares people with Swiss meringue. So I reverse it. We're going to do it exactly the same way as we do with regular buttercream. This is going to be whipped up into that lovely butter that we do for our regular buttercream. So let's get started with that. Right, in goes the butter. There we go. And on goes the paddle. And then we're just, as I said, going to do this. I'm just going to put that on slow to begin with. We're going to do this in the same way as you've done with the other buttercream tutorial that I showed you. So this is just going to go for around about 2 or 3 minutes. Then we're going to stop it, we're going to scrape it down, we're going to go again, we're going to stop, scrape, down, and we're going to get that lovely whipped butter. So I will be back with you in about 2 minutes. Scrape. Right, let's scrape this down. Now you really do want to take that mixer as fast as it will go. Right, here we go. It's getting lighter, but you know we're nowhere near, because at the moment it's still sticky and buttery, and that's not what we want. We want mousse. As you know, we've done this. Oops. Right. Here we go again. Another 2 minutes. See you in 2 minutes. Right. And again. So here we are. Getting lighter. And back on again. Another 2 minutes. Let's go. One more after this, I think. It is looking nice. I love it when this starts happening. Here we are. Really nice. It's not as sticky. We're becoming mousse-like. You can start to see those air pockets in there, those little holes in it, which is what we want, which is that air. So let's go again. Keep that speed going. Let's keep moving this butter around, get some air in it. Okay, see you in a sec. Okay. I'm happy to stop. I'm just going to grab myself a bowl. Right. There we go. And we're going to scrape this into the bowl. Now look at that. Now, the reason this is going to help as well with the Swiss meringue is the colour too. Don't forget we said how you get that white buttercream is this colour, is whipping it so much that everything becomes white. The same with the Swiss meringue. You've got this lovely white fluffy meringue, and then if you put something into it that's yellow, which is what butter is, it's going to turn the meringue an off colour. So whenever you start anything with whipped up butter, it's going to make the colour a lot paler and a lot better. Right, so here we go. There we are, look at that, it's like mousse. So now we're just going to leave this on the side. We don't want this anymore. We've done our bit. There we go. And then we're going to go and wash our bowl up and then get ready to make the meringue. So I'm going to go wash up, you go wash up, and we'll be back in a sec. Right, I've washed up, and to my naked eye, this looks clean, as does my utensils. But you can't see grease, and just in case there's any, we've just done butter in it. This is a really important stage of making meringue. I've got blue roll, you can just use kitchen towel. Going to take some lemon juice, and we're just going to squirt lemon juice into the bowl, and then wipe the bowl all the way around. Don't worry about rubbing it all off, and that's what we're going to do. Grease and meringue don't mix. So if you have any grease at all, they're going to deflate and you're not going to get meringue. So lemon juice cuts through grease, which is going to stop that from happening. So now everything that we're going to use, we are just wiping over with that lemon juice, okay? And that is going to make sure that you don't have these big issues. Right, I have got 300 grams of sugar, okay? Doesn't really matter if it's caster sugar or granulated sugar, you can dissolve it anyway. So pop that into my bowl. Now I'm using my metal bowl because this can sit on top of a bain-marie with the heat. If you haven't got one, just use another metal bowl. If your bowl is plastic or glass, go for something different. Just a regular metal bowl that you're going to fit on top. So that's that. Next, we've got egg whites. Sometimes egg whites, getting them out, worry people. So I'm going to show you how I do it, and I do it probably in the messiest way, but I find that this way gives me the most egg white, and it also doesn't crack as much as I say, and it does it now. So I'm going to show you how I do mine. So here's my large egg. Take a knife, don't bang it on the side because you want a clean cut, and go through. Take the egg like this and lift it up and gently lift the top part off. Now you can do what others do and you can mix this from one to another to another. I don't do that because on quite a few occasions I've caught the egg yolk on the side and it just breaks the egg yolk, and the minute egg yolk touches this, you've destroyed your egg white and you can't use it. So I use my hand, because I've no sharp edges on my hand. Put it into the palm of my hand, open my fingers up a little bit, and just wiggle the egg yolk around. And then you can save those for later. So again, take these out. Right, and then pour that into another container. Because if you get egg yolk into it, you're going to destroy all of them instead of just throwing one away. Right, again, lift it up. And in it goes. Open your fingers slightly. wiggle it forward, and done. Okay, so I'm going to do the other two and then be back to you. Okay, I've changed the position of my camera because I want you to see exactly what I'm doing here. Right, so I have got water in my bowl. If I move that about a little bit, you can see how much. It's probably 3/4 of an inch of water. What you don't want is the water to be touching your bowl. So here is our sugar in here, and to that we're going to add this egg white, and we are just going to stir it around. There we go, and incorporate it before I pop it on to that there. Right, and literally we put this on the top. There we go, got rid of the smoke so you can see properly now. Right, there we go, and we're going to stir it. I'm going quite quickly here, just to make sure that everything is incorporated. There we go, and then it becomes like a thick, like you would expect egg white to be. Like when you try and pick it up, it's thick, it's a bit heavier. Right. Now what you can do is you can leave it like that for about 20 seconds. You don't have to stir it repeatedly. And then we just go back in and we give it a stir around, always wiping these sides down. The sides are really important because this is undissolved sugar and you want to get those in. Now, if you were to pick this up now and rub it between your fingers like this, you can feel the grit in there and it's not very nice. But that is telling you that it isn't dissolved. So as this gets hotter and hotter, it will dissolve the sugar, and then you should know then it's come up to temperature, the correct temperature. Now working with egg whites, I do like to know exactly what my temperature is. So if you have a candy thermometer, brilliant. I don't, I have a regular thermometer. So I'm just going to put that in there and you can see my temperature going up. So at the moment I am on around about, say at 35 at the most. Now I want that to come to 70. And because 70 is a food safe temperature. Here we go. So we've got quite a bit of a way to go. But keep stirring. And if you can see there, it's getting lighter and lighter through that. So each time, just leave it for 20 seconds or so, maybe not even that, maybe 10, 15 seconds. And then come back in. Take some of that mixture up the sides to get rid of what there is around the side of the bowl, because it'll start sticking. Right, and let's see how far we've gone now. Put this back in. See, it's steadily coming up quite quickly there. So now we're at 40. Oops. And it's becoming bubblier on the top as well. And these are all signs that you're getting there. So, again, coming all around my sides there, just making sure that it's all coming off. Okay, now if you did your touch test now and come up, that is not got any more in there. So technically people take that off now, but I don't think that that temperature is warm enough. I don't like that temperature. So again, let's go back in. So I'd say now we're at 50. And it's becoming a lot looser when you lift it. It's a lot easier. My sides are completely clearing, if you can see around here. as well, because the sugar is dissolving. So you're really just getting a loose liquid now rather than this sugary mess. Okay. See where we're going? Okay, I'd say we're at 60, so another couple of minutes and we're going to be there. So you can see towards the end it does come up quite rapidly. Okay. Right, and it becomes a lot more bubbly, so I can see now I'm nearly done there. Keep turning that so you can see it. And it just keeps climbing and climbing. Okay, one more stir. And I think we will be good to go. Alright, let's have another one. No, it's really quickly flying up now. Yeah. Just give that a tiny little stir there. There we go. See? Climbing, climbing, climbing. We've hit 70. And remove it immediately. Onto the side. Turn off my heat. Right, and I'll put my camera back and we will go from there. Okay, so here we go. Now we are ready to make meringue. So I'm going to take that out. Now I use something called cream of tartar, and this stabilises my meringue and make sure that it goes all whipped and nice. Now I know that I have heard that you can use lemon juice for this, but I have no idea what the ratio of that is. I'd have to use Google for that one. So cream of tartar, a teaspoon of that straight into the tub. Okay, put these back. On goes our balloon whisk attachment. Really important, you can't do this with a paddle, okay? And then turn on your mixer on the smallest speed that you've got, that lowest speed. Meringue does not like to be whipped and whipped and whipped really fast to start with. It can make it collapse a little bit. So what we do is we go slowly and we build up to that highest possible speed that you've got. So we'll leave this for around about 30-40 seconds, the way that we are now. Lowest speed. All of the cream of tartar is dissolved. And we go up another one. It can be very temperamental, meringue, and we just like to make sure that it's happy. So, I'm happy enough, I'm going to go up another one. Okay, now you can see the steam coming off the top. We're going to leave it on this speed for about 90 seconds, and then we're going to really crank up the speed and whip up that meringue. So give me a minute and I will be straight back to you as soon as I've given this its time. It'll be happy and ready now. I can't turn this up to the highest speed on camera because it'll deafen you. So now, up to the highest that yours will go, and I'll show you what it's meant to look like when it is completely done. So it takes a couple of minutes to get it, like 3 or 4 minutes to get it up to that meringue. Right, I have meringue. So you lift it up. This will be your first realisation that it's done. It's come down like this, but it's sticking to the bit that's coming up. So you'll see this when I lift it. There we go, look. When it does that, you know you're confident enough to do that, okay? And that is what you want. It has to be able to do that. So there is our meringue. Look at the colour, it's lovely, isn't it? I love the look of meringue. But when you take the bowl off there to do your little test, that's hot. Now we have made this, here it is. That's making my butter look yellow now, don't like that. Right, that is got so much air in it and it looks really, really nice. But if we add that to that, this is where soup is going to happen because that's too hot and it's just going to melt it and it's just going to become a mess. So I'm giving you a good excuse to go and have a cup of tea. So go and have a rest, you've deserved it for the moment. I am going to go and wash up, but go and take a rest. We're going to give this 10 or 15 minutes to make sure it really comes down to the correct temperature. Just leave it up like that, don't do anything else with it, and we'll come back in about 10 or 15 minutes and we'll make that Swiss meringue. Right, I've cooled. I can still feel in this bottom part some kind of temperature, but that's not touching my meringue, so we're good. Right, oh, and just pull this forward just a little bit. Right, because we've left this for a moment, what we're going to do is on the highest speed, we're just going to let this go for 1 minute just to remix it all up and make sure that all of the temperature is the same the whole way through. So let's do that and then I'll be back. And perfect. Oop, we lift it again and the same thing is happening. Look. All good. Now the butter. So the butter that we got earlier, you grab it and then just give it a stir. And it should still be silky all the way through, and that's what we're looking for. The reason, if you've tried Swiss meringue before, that I think that there's a lot of issues is this now is in the same state as this. This has got air in it, it's whipped, it's light, it's easy for you to touch, okay? This is airy, light, again, easy for you to get through as well. So when we add this in this state to this in this state, the two are happier with one another and they marry up and they don't cause issues. They're not fighting. When you're adding something that is so big and blocked into this delicate mixture, no wonder there's issues with it, because it's just they're fighting one another. And I believe this is why my method is so much simpler and you're not going to have problems with it. I promise. I hope. Someone's going to message me now and say it didn't work. It will. Have confidence. Right. Take a good chunk of this and just put it in to your mixer. Again, ignore everything you've learned before where it said you can only put one bit in at a time. That's because it's fighting with it because you're putting cubes in. We are putting smooth, lovely textured butter into this. It's coping, don't worry. Also, when we begin this, it could end up looking slightly like it's gone a bit watery, a bit wetter. Again, don't panic, it's normal. Medium speed. Let it go. As soon as you see it's mixed in, add more. Come on, I'll stop being lazy. I'll lift it. In it goes. I won't make such a mess. I'm ready for more. Now as you're lifting this up now, if you can see, look, it's not holding its form quite as much. Don't worry, again, normal. What you're going to do is as you're adding this, if you watch the mixture in here, it's all of a sudden going to turn like it almost curdles and then it forms buttercream. That's what we're looking for. Another good bit, in it goes. And again. Okay, mine's starting to take that form. So it's looking buttercream-like. I'm going to scrape this down now. So look, now it's turning, instead of hanging down, it's turning into this buttercream state. Right, you've got a lot of that meringue at the bottom here, so just scrape it away, getting any of the butter that you've got on the side. Here we are. There you go. And then we're going to let that work that before we add any more in. Okay. Right. Back on. Okay, I've lost that kind of buttercream look for a moment just because I was incorporating all of that extra meringue in. So, right, another bit. And then the next one will be the end. Ooh, too fast. We're getting there. Oh, now it's coming back into that buttercreamy type look again. So I lift it so you can see. Here we go. We're getting buttercream, see? In peaks like this now. So again, I'm going to give this a scrape. Just lifting up any bits that are still there, all around the outsides. Right, there still was some bits there. So before I add this last amount, right, let's start scraping up the last of this butter. Right, here we go. In with the last of it. Scrape off your spatula, lift it up and put it back in. Right, now that's just going to do exactly what we want now and look so much like buttercream. We're getting true Swiss meringue. Hopefully you're seeing how easy this was now. I know it seems like it's a lot harder when you're making the whipped butter to start with, but you're actually cutting the time to the same because you're not having to add it at the end cube by cube. We're putting this in chunks. Oh, I love Swiss meringue. This looks so nice. Right. Here we are. Look at that. It's like clouds. Right. One final go around, just because it can tend to sit in that bottom bit, all the way around there. Scrape it off, lift it, pop it back in. Okay, now we're going to add some flavouring to this. So I've got my vanilla, and I'm going to add you won't hear anything me making that noise, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Now vanilla is a personal preference as well, so I always say taste it as you're going along, and if you want more, add more. So start with a teaspoon, so you want 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla in there. Start with a teaspoon of vanilla and mix it around and taste it, and then add the other half if you need to. Right, let's let this go. A little bit sloppy to start with, that's normal, because you're putting fluid into butter and the egg whites, and it just has to get used to that structure for a moment. Okay, that's completely incorporated. Now here is our finished buttercream. When I show it to you, this is going to sound strange, but it's quite airy, and I know that's what we want, but at the same time, if I push this across the top, you're just getting lots of air bubbles, and that's not going to be great. So what we're going to do now is an extra trick. We are going to take this off. in it goes. Get it all off. Don't want to waste any. There we go. And then we're going to go back to our paddle. I'm going to put this on, and on the lowest speed that you've got, same as what we would do with the regular buttercream, we're just going to let that go. And what that's going to do is smooth it out, make it silky, and just knock any of those really tiny air bubbles that are going to be annoying to work with out. So that just gets left to do its little thing for 2 minutes, then scrape, then 2 minutes, and that will be done. And we are going to have such lovely Swiss meringue buttercream. And if you've never tried it before, it's one of those where sometimes you just don't look back. So let's give that 2 minutes, then we'll scrape, and then we'll be nearly done. See you in a minute. Right, let's stop and scrape down. I love the way we just take this off and it doesn't fall. Look, caught it. That shows you not what to do. Right, scrape. Look, it is coming together so much nicer now than what it was without doing this. Right, back on. Another 2 minutes and then we will be done, I promise. Okay, we're done. Right. Oh, it looks so, so good. Right. Why can't I take it off? There we go. Right. Don't waste any. Get it all off. There we go. Let me just pop this over here. Now, my hands. Right, look at this. So, so good. Now I do love Swiss meringue. Just regular buttercream is just so much quicker. But this really is so much nicer. And now you've just made a successful Swiss meringue. So, well done. If you have had any problems, just drop it in the comments underneath. If you followed this, you should be alright. Okay, we're going to pop this in a piping bag for a minute. So, same as usual, hand straight in the piping bag. Obviously make sure your hands are 100% clean. Get out a spoon. Right. And in it goes. A little wiggle. And in. And in. Right, same as last time. With that spoon, use the back of it and push all the way down. You can see through the glass where you are. So, from the sides, just keep pushing. Especially with this, you can get quite a lot of air pockets in this. Another one. And another one. And we just keep pushing. Right. We're not going to get all of it in here. You don't want to go too high up, otherwise it'll burst out and you won't have, you won't be able to work with it properly. So again, just keep pushing it down. There we are. And that's plenty for this bag. Okay, that spoon there. I'm going to lift this up, do what we did last time, and then pop it in there, push this round, give it a twist, tuck the twist to the side, and we're going to pop that there, and we'll use that in a minute. The rest of it just goes into a bowl with some cling film over the top. There we go. And then if we need to add more, we can just add more. Now remember when we did the buttercream, to make it chocolate, we added cocoa powder. Do exactly the same for this as well. Right at the end, just before you put the paddle on. So after you've whisked it all up with the balloon whisk, and it's all come to the end, pop in 2 or 3, I'd say 3, pop in 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and then put on the paddle and just let it go, and you will have chocolate Swiss meringue buttercream as well. So now you know how to do it the 2 ways. Chocolate is so easy. Vanilla is the base of everything. So once you've got your vanilla, you can do your chocolate. So let's cling film that over, and we're going to get our cakes out and we are going to start decorating. Okay, here's the fun bit. It's time to put it together. This is my favourite bit. So we're going to look at our sponges. I've got a little turntable here. This was cheap. This came off of Amazon, and I need to get a better one, really. But you know, it's never failed me, and it's easy to clean. I like it. I put some little stickers on the top so everything sticks. So I actually quite like it. So this is really important when it comes to doing your cakes properly, when we come to smooth sides and sharp edges and all of those things. You need a turntable because you need to be able to move the thing around. So anyway, I'm going to use a plate and not a drum because I don't know what you've got at home, and I just thought that a plate would be a lot easier and we'll all look the same. I've also got some jam, so if you don't like jam, ignore that part. But my family love jam, so I'm going to put jam on. Right, so remember we had that slight bulge on our cake. Look, we have got a completely flat cake there, and it's so soft, you can feel it when you press. So we've done really, really well with this one. So what we're going to do is, again, same with that one, peel off the bottom. Now when I'm working with cake, you have a tendency to do that and then work with that, but I don't. Start with, this is such a clean, sharp top when you've taken this off. You want to work with that. So we'll just pop that down there. And then get some jam, not a lot, because if you use a lot, it makes the cake slide everywhere. So, pop on some jam. I've got one of these palette knives, okay, which is really useful. And we're just going to smear the jam across. There we go. Going towards the edges. Try not to make it go all the way over. If it does, just lift it. There we are. And there we go. Okay, if you want a bit more, you can add a bit more. I'm going to add a tiny little bit more. It can be quite strong otherwise if you add too much. And there we are. Right, put that to one side. Let's get our meringue. Right, so here we go. Pushing it down as far as you can. It's going to go further down when we cut the end off. So we are going to not use we're not going to use, I should say, I can't speak sometimes. We're not going to use piping nozzles again, because we haven't got to that yet. But you don't always need them. So push this down. Same as before, squeeze in from the top. And then what we're going to do is just push down and lift, okay? What I'm going to do the same as before. I'm going to bring you in closer so you can see exactly what I'm doing. You don't need to see me, so hang on. Right, which way round am I going? This way. So again, just put your bag down, push and lift. Put your bag down from the top, push and lift. I'm going to do this all the way around. Put your bag down, push and lift. There we go. We're going to do this all the way around. Then we're going to go in between each one, not stacked behind, and do the same thing. Well, Actually, that's just not really gone the way I said, but still. I'm just going to keep going all the way around to fill it. There we go. That's lovely. Look at all those little blobs sticking up there. Right, and then we're going to take our other cake and we're going to put this on the top. There we are. Just give it a little press down, and then it all comes to the edges. There we are, all the way around there. Now we're going to do the same all across the top. So again, pushing down and just lifting. Okay. Oh, I might just do it. Just. It's getting so short, it's hard to. There we go. There we are. Lovely. And that there, across the top then, is our cake. Now if you wanted to add just a little dusting of icing sugar over the top so that it hits the sides, you might just lift it off a little bit. So we'll do that now. Now you don't want a lot, just enough to give you a bit of life across the top there and just catch those edges, so go around the sides. There we go. I think it will hit the plate a little bit too. Okay. And there we have our sponge, vanilla and strawberry cake. Okay, so let's have a look, see what it looks like inside. It's always so sad to cut them, isn't it? Right, in we go. And there we go. Right. Let's show you what this looks like. Look how fluffy that is. Isn't that good? Looks absolutely lovely. Okay, and then on the inside you can see it all the way through. So there we are. So pop that back there. Now, that was your cake and that was your Swiss meringue buttercream. So next we are going to go on to showing you how to use ganache, how to make different types of ganache and what the different styles are of them. So we'll have a look at that next. Enjoy your cake. Go and have a slice. You've enjoyed it. You've deserved it. Not enjoyed it, you will enjoy it and you've deserved it. Me and words, sometimes they just don't work. Okay, see you soon. Bye bye.